He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
All right, welcome everybody to the Mark Levin Show. You're probably listening, whether it be in your car or on your Mark Levin app, and saying, well, that doesn't sound like Mark. Well, that's because it's not. And I'm not in the bunker either, although I wish I was. I always wanted to check that bunker out. You guys ever seen that bunker? It's pretty nice out. No, you never seen the bunker? All right, that's on my bucket list there. See the bunker. I'm Dan Bongino, folks. I was Maryland's 2012 nominee for the United States Senate. Didn't win, unfortunately. Finished second, but no silver medals in politics, folks. Either get the gold and your butt goes in the seat in the Senate, or you don't. But we tried hard. It was a three-way race, so I finished second. It was a moral victory there. Right? I was a former Secret Service agent as well. Left the job to run for office. Had a good time. It was interesting seeing both sides of politics, behind the curtain, and then being behind the podium from being in front of the podium, protecting the guy behind the podium. Interesting time. So I'll sprinkle in some stories throughout the show from my days over there in the Secret Service as well, especially since yesterday's incident. Crazy, huh? That lady. And I want you to know, I did a piece yesterday, and I told the folks that that's what I thought had happened. I thought there was some kind of a mental disorder there with that woman, because that entrance to the White House, that's actually happened quite a bit, where you can get kind of caught in there, and I figured there was something going on. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But, hey, filling in for Mark Levin. Unbelievable. You know, they don't call him the great one for nothing, right? They don't call him the good one. He's not like the okay one. They call him the great one. And Mark, I was talking to Mr. Producer yesterday on the phone. I said, I have to tell this story about how I first found Mark Levin. So I'm a young buck Secret Service agent. I was in the Dignitary Protection Division. And I'm driving home one night, and I think it was 17th and Independence or something like that. I actually remember the street. And, of course, D.C. traffic is terrible. And those in D.C. sitting in traffic right now are thinking, yeah, this is pretty terrible. But having come from New York, I see traffic seems to follow me everywhere, right? So I'm sitting there, and I'd been an economic conservative, read Friedman and Schumpeter, and my political North Star, Thomas Sowell, my whole life. We'll talk about his article today, too, by the way, in Town Hall, which was terrific. I turn on the radio, and I hear this guy on the radio saying, get off the phone, you big dummy. And I thought, who is this guy? This is incredible. So I kept it on, and I just watched this back and forth with one of these liberal callers, of course, called in, and I guess he tried to get into an academic debate, a cerebral battle with no ammunition, and Mark was eating his lunch and his dinner, and he probably stole the next day's milk money, too. And I thought, this is terrific. So young Dan Bongino, that was his introduction to talk radio. And I started listening and became a fan. So who would have guessed it? Now I'm sitting behind the mic filling in for him. So I hope all's going well, Mark. And thank you if you are listening for the opportunity. I deeply appreciate it. It means more to me than you know. Again, they don't call him the great one for nothing. So a lot of material today. And that's kind of unfortunate, folks. And I mean that. The nice part about talk radio, I guess, is when you get a liberal Democratic administration, there's a lot of material. But the downside is the rest of America, has to suffer. And I think right now we're being put through the ringer like we've never been put through the ringer before. Now, listen, I was no fan of Bill Clinton. Let me just get that out of the way right now. But I have to tell you, did you feel at any point in the Clinton administration for the conservatives, libertarians, limited government independence out there, did you ever feel like the country was constantly on the verge of like some major collapse? I mean, is this administration serious? How does this president, and I hope you're listening at the White House right now, how do you get in front of the microphone every day as the CEO of the greatest company, the United States of America, in the history of the planet? People have shed blood, hundreds of thousands, millions of Americans have sacrificed for the idea that flag represents. You get in front of that microphone every day and abdicate responsibility for every major crisis that comes your way. Think about that. Everything. Nothing is this guy's fault right now. But nothing was this guy's fault yesterday. Nothing's going to be his fault tomorrow. I mean, are you in charge or not? And for those out there who want to call in 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811, give us a call. For those who are going to call and say, well, here we go, another Republican beating up Obama. No. I'm not giving you that out, all right? Call in and let's hear what you got to say, because I'd love to have some back and forth with you. But I have never, ever seen this before, ever. Granted, I'm only 38 years old, folks, but I have never, ever seen the CEO of a company or the leader of a country, the greatest country in the history of mankind, ever abdicate responsibility for every single crisis that comes through his door. And then, even worse, to create a crisis, and then when it doesn't go his way after he created, still try to blame someone else. You know, there was no need for the government to shut down. I was a federal employee, okay? I was a Secret Service agent for 12 years, and I loved it. They treated me very well. They're good people there. It's a noble job, folks. There's nothing like putting up your right hand, swearing to protect and uphold the Constitution of the United States, and saying, you know, this guy behind me, regardless of his politics, man, woman, whatever he looks like, it doesn't matter. He's not getting hurt today. Not on my watch. There's nothing like that. So don't call and tell me this is some battle against government employees. It's not. I was one, and I honor what they do every day. But is this president going to lead or what? I mean, sending those poor Park Service employees out there to keep these vets out of the World War II memorial. What country? Is this Stalinist Russia? Folks, we have to start calling it what it is. There's a total abdication of leadership in the United States right now. This is a proud, noble, a country full of men and women with valor. There's a reason. There's a reason in the United States that we are as we are. It's because people who are looking for a different and better life always find that beacon, that lighthouse, which is us. It's built into the gene code. I bet you there's science somewhere in there. We are exceptional. We are different. I don't want to hear any different. We are definitely the exception to the rule of humanity. There has never been a country like us ever. And yet, the way we're handling so-called, air quotes here, leadership right now, and the way the president gets behind that microphone and just seems to blame, it's Bush, it's, what was it, the nuclear disaster in Japan, ATMs, or are you ever going to take responsibility for anything? You know, I'm not interested in any more of the White House Christmas parties or anything. I've seen it all, and I'll tell you, it's ugly behind that curtain, folks. We got to fix this. And during this show today, there's going to be a number of, some calls to action here. We have to get out there. We have to make the phone calls. You have to send the emails to your legislators, and you have to do something because the time for complaining's over. Leave that up to the president. He does it very well. I mean, I was reading this story right before we got on the air today. I find this hard to believe. This Blue Ridge Hotel story, where it's a federally owned property, but it's not subsidized at all. It takes no federal government money. And they told the owner, despite the fact that they actually pay money to the government for rent, to shut down. 877-381-3811. We're going to talk about this, folks, and we're going to really dig into this. And I want to talk about Obamacare, too, and why we're fighting this, because there's a whole lot of misconceptions about there. There are some people on the left, and you're not my political enemies. You're American just like I am. You earned your right to be here and have your opinion. But are you ready to face the facts? Or are you going to keep living in a fantasy land where the money fairy exists and the healthcare fairy exists? Are you ready to accept reality that it's time to fix this thing and move on, or what? We're going to get into some numbers. So call in and have at me. I love liberal callers, so please tell me how wonderful Obamacare is. 877-381-3811. So, again, I'm Dan Bongino, at DBongino on Twitter. If you want to tweet me anything nice or nasty, I'll take it. And stay tuned, folks. We got a lot of good stuff ahead for you. I'm Dan Bongino filling in for Mark Levin. Stay tuned.
Mark Levin.
Welcome back to the Mark Levin Show. Dan Bongino filling in for Mark today. There's a big shoes to fill, but we'll do our best. I think we got my buddy Tom Marr filling in on Monday, too. I like Tom. You won't be disappointed. Tom's a good man. He's filled in here quite a bit. So we were talking about this just failed presidential leadership in the middle of another forced crisis. Oh, boy, folks, we are in trouble. But listen, it's not all bad. We can fix this. I dug in a little bit to the last few chapters of Mark's book last night, too, the Liberty Amendments, and that's a great part about that document. I think that's kind of what, I can't read Mark's mind, but I think that's what kind of motivated him to write the book, that document was so wonderful. It built in fail-safes into itself to fix itself. If you haven't checked out the book, you're doing yourself a major disservice. Go to marklevinshow.com. Check him out on Twitter, too, at Mark Levin Show. And make sure to pick up his book, The Liberty Amendments. I have a link to it on my Facebook. You can find it on his Facebook, and you can find it on Amazon, but it's well worth the time. I promise you there's a path forward. So, again, we're talking about failed leadership. Folks, this is your government. I mean, you bled for it. You paid for it. Your sons and daughters are the ones that fight for it. And don't you feel like at this point, this is like the let them eat cake aristocracy? I mean, they live in the crystal palaces in D.C. I mean, have you ever felt so out of touch with your government? I mean, I know I have. And I live in their backyard in Maryland. I mean, I'm right there all the time. I'm immersed in it. Even the local stations are like national stations because you're always getting the national perspective. You can't get away from it. A funny joke. My daughter, actually, sometimes I'll turn on one of the cable news networks, and she calls the news network Daddy Show. Not the show, the whole network. She goes, oh, Daddy Show's on. I can't get away. I'm almost like it's like masochistic. It's like I have to watch it. They're torturing us, and I have to keep watching. So I'm upset, folks, because the left doesn't seem to understand why we are fighting so passionately. And don't give me this nonsense either that the Republicans support a government shutdown. Let me give you a little known fact that's very inconvenient for our audience out there that just wants to throw this on the conservatives and libertarians out there. There's only one group of people, only one. Take it in, folks. Only one group of people that has voted to shut down this government. And that's Harry Reid, the Senate Democrats, and the president's veto threats. That is it. Challenge me on that one otherwise. 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Give us a call. All right, let's take a call here. Let's go to Kenny in Dallas. Kenny, all Obama does is create chaos. All right, well, I get it. Tell me how.
Hey, Dan, first of all, can I say thank you very much for your service. You're a true patriot.
Thanks, brother.
I got one thing to say when I talk to all my liberal friends and all that is, look, save your issue for your tissue, save your Addie for your daddy, and save your drama for Obama. Drama is what Obama is perfect at. He has no order in his life. If he can create drama and he can create disorder, that's all that man knows about.
Well, Kenny, don't you find it odd, too, that, this whole argument it's the Obamacare, it's the law of the land. You've heard this meme over and over. The Democrats must get an email in the morning. Everybody say law of the land. Everybody say it on TV. It's the law of the land. But here's the irony. The president himself doesn't care about Obamacare. The congressional exemption, waived it. Oh, and then they'll call it, there's no exemption. Really? The Grassley Amendment, have you heard? They just ignored it. They said, no, we don't. Again, we're the let them eat cake aristocracy. The income requirements for Obamacare. No, we're going to waive that because we need people to sign up. No, you can't just waive it. This isn't like some, third world republic here, folks. I mean, the employer mandate. Look at that. No, we're going to waive that too. So Obama doesn't care about Obamacare, but the rest of the American people are just supposed to fall in line, right? I mean, isn't this incredible?
Yeah. Hey, 21 years I spent in the service. And can I tell you, my father was in the Marines in World War II. I've served in every conflict since I joined in 1987.
Thanks, Kenny.
There's order in the military for a very specific reason. There is order in this world for a very specific reason. Mr. President, can you create order instead of dysfunction, instead of chaos, please? Go to one of the NCO academies, please. Just take 6 weeks off. Go to the NCO academy somewhere. Go to one of the leadership training classes that any of these professional institutions have. Take a class in leadership, please. Take a class in giving orders and receiving orders and going out there and becoming a leader. Yeah. If someone takes a bullet, someone's got to step up.
Right.
Look,
Well, Kenny,
Don't
you know
advocate.
what? Thanks for the call, Kenny. Listen, when I was a Secret Service agent, my buddy Derek Hunter's listening, he's going to laugh. I say that all the time to him. He goes, you ever tell anyone you're in the Secret Service? Hey, everybody's got that's what people know me by, right? You just didn't do this. You didn't get up as a lead advance overseas when you were in charge of an operation, right? Just you. And say, God forbid something was to break bad, minor or major, and go, hey, it wasn't me. It was the Fukushima disaster in Tokyo. It was the ATM machine that did it. I mean, has he ever heard of the word leadership? This is downright frightening. And again, please, liberal callers, call in. I'd love to hear from you. 877-381-3811. Don't tell me, you just dislike him. I don't care. I don't care about his personal characteristics. He can't take responsibility for it. Obamacare is collapsing in front of our very eyes, is it not? Someone call in, please, on either side and answer me this one question. Just this one. What about Obamacare is working? But, hold on. Here's the caveat. What's the cost to you? Because I hear this all the time. People call into Mark's show. They call into all of these shows, and they say, oh, we insured all these uninsured people. Yeah. At what cost? Now that they can't even get in to see a doctor anymore because doctors are leaving the business. Folks, anybody can give you on a benefit cost equation the benefit. It takes a real man and a leader to get up and give you the costs and be honest about it. And sell you a real deal to the American people that could fix something. I mean, he's not defending Obamacare himself. I think Betsy McCoy was on Mark's show. I was listening to her. I think it was last week or maybe it was this week. And she brought up this great point. I've been using it everywhere. We're expected to defend Obamacare, but he won't defend it himself. The entire thing is collapsing. He's ignoring it. He's paying no attention while you are being hammered every day. When are we going to wake up? Folks, I don't care your politics. I really don't. But at some point, absolution's going to be truth here. Find out the truth. It's out there. We're going to dig into some more truth. We'll get into some other stuff here. Again, I'm Dan Bongino filling in for Mark Levin, 877-381-3811, at DBongino on Twitter, at Mark Levin Show. Tweet us good, bad, or indifferent, and give us a call, 877-381-3811. Stay tuned. A lot more ahead.
Your daily adult dosage of the Constitution. The Mark Levin Show. Call in now at 877-381-3811.
Mark Levin, author of numerous New York Times best-selling books, Men in Black, Liberty and Tyranny, and Ameritopia. Now comes the Liberty Amendments.
This book is what we do, what I do behind this microphone, what we discuss day in and day out. And it answers the question that you ask. Mark, what can we do? Well, this is my answer.
The Liberty Amendments, new from Mark Levin.
When you read this book, The Liberty Amendments, Restoring the American Republic, it gives you hope. It gives you some inspiration, and we need it. And that's why I wrote it.
Rush Limbaugh on Mark Levin's The Liberty Amendments.
It's a wonderful book. He proposes 10 amendments that simply reaffirm the original intent of the Constitution, and then gives a thorough explanation for why each amendment is, in fact, justified, and traces it back to the days of the founding.
This year's must-read, Mark Levin's The Liberty Amendments, now on sale everywhere.
All right, folks, welcome back. Dan Bongino filling in for Mark. Be sure to go to marklevinshow.com. And, again, you're doing yourself a major disservice if you don't pick up the Liberty Amendments. I actually have like 3 or 4 copies. Sometimes I go to events and people keep giving me copies. I appreciate it, folks. But, I'll buy a few more myself. But you don't have to give me any more. I appreciate it. I'm almost done. But it is a path forward. Action, folks. Action matters. Talk is cheap. If it doesn't motivate you to do something positive, then I can tell you what, it's just a bunch of oxygen, CO2 actually leaving your mouth. CO2, the poisonous gas the left wants you to believe. All right, so we've been talking about what we're fighting for here, as conservatives. We're not fighting to shut down the government, stop believing the media memes, all this nonsense that they're trying to kill kids with cancer, which, by the way, they conveniently left out, folks in the mainstream media. I noticed watching a report last night, conveniently left out the fact that we actually put an NIH funding bill to fund that program, and the Democrats said we're not going to take it up. Forget that story. Don't talk about any of that. Again, the let them eat cake gilded crowd in D.C., treating us as the great unwashed. I'm telling you, folks, I when I was doing this during my time in the Secret Service, it really is disappointing. I mean, I was proud of what I did. I'm very proud of them. They probably hate me for constantly talking about them on the air, but I love the agents. They're good guys. So if you're listening, agents, thanks for what you do. But the management probably can't stand me, but too bad. You see it behind the scenes, and it really is. It's funny how the left loves to play division capital, right? They have nothing to really run on. Again, give us a call, 877-381-3811, and tell me what they're running on. Their economic recovery? Okay, let's debunk that right now. This is statistically, just using numbers, not my opinion, the worst recovery from a recession in American history. All right, I get to blame Bush maybe for a year, maybe 2, maybe if you get desperate 3, really desperate 4 years. But seriously, into the second term, it's still President Bush's fault? I got a lot of problems with some of the spending he did, too. So, again, don't call in and say I'm some, Bush flunky. I'm not. But is it time? Are they running on their health care plan? We're going to dig into this in depth, and we're going to start getting into some meat and potatoes on Obamacare. But what are they running on, their education policy? And it's funny, they always run on this, we're so compassionate. Yes, the liberals, we love people. The Republicans hate people. Now, listen, I didn't grow up with some silver spoon, so don't give me that garbage. I don't want to hear it. I grew up at 64th Place and Myrtle Avenue in Queens. Got a couple of callers, and one of them we'll get to in a minute. Fran, we'll get to you, so don't worry. From Bayside, but I lived in Bayside for a little bit. But grew up above a bar, which my grandfather owned and my parents inherited. And, we didn't eat foie gras for dinner, folks. I don't even know what foie gras is. I think it's like duck or stomach or something. Email us or tweet us at Mark Levin Show what foie gras is. I ate tuna fish and Cheerios, okay? And I didn't even eat the Cheerios. I ate O's because Cheerios were too expensive. So any of this nonsense, Republicans don't care. So, and here's the irony. I was talking about their education policy. When it comes to things like school choice that are actually going to help struggling inner city folks and some mountainous region folks in some areas of the country where they have really poor public schools, where you can just give them a choice, like freedom and liberty, those crazy ideas that have only worked forever in the United States. The Democrats say, no, we're not going to do that. Chain the doors behind those kids because we love them. And we love seniors, despite the fact that they can't get a doctor because we took all this money out of Medicare. But shh, don't tell anyone. Fairness, compassion. Just keep saying it over and over and people will believe it. I can only hope at the end of this show, you never know when these opportunities are going to present themselves, folks. Mark was generous enough to turn over his mic to me. I can only hope that someone who believes all this garbage is listening to this show and says to themselves, hey, why does a guy like that who grew up relatively, poor to middle class at times, why does he become a limited government Republican? Shouldn't he care about people? Folks, there is no compassion in taking my money and spending it for me on things that only benefit you. Do you really believe that this let them eat cake class in D.C. is taking your tax dollars because they really want to do the right thing? Why do you think the tax code is 70,000 pages long? It's because every one of these guys is sold out to some crony who walks in there and says, hey, buddy, here's the deal. I'm going to throw you a little campaign donation, and here's what you're going to do. You're going to give my company a tax donation. Like, no, that never happens. There is no benevolence in this anymore, folks. This has grown way too big, way too fast, and this is no knock on the hardworking people every morning that get up and work for the government. They're not the problem, okay? A guy who gets up at 6 o'clock in the morning and puts on whether it be his suit or his work boots and goes in and goes to work, you're not the problem at all. It's the bureaucracy on top of you that is absolutely suffocating you and everyone else. And I got news for you. Because I did work for the federal government. I spent 12 years in the Secret Service and loved every minute of it. It's your job that's in jeopardy first with suffocating, terrible policies like Obamacare. Because you know what's going to happen? As Margaret Thatcher said, it's used over and over again. Sooner or later, you run out of other people's money. And who do you think is the first person to go? Who was protesting in Greece, folks? If Paul Krugman's listening right now, who was protesting in Greece? The government workers. They were the first ones kicked to the curb. All right, so let's go to the phones before we go to break here. Let's go to Fran in Bayside. Bayside brings back good memories. Fran, welcome to the Mark Levin Show.
I'm so proud to be speaking to you. I'm old enough to be a mom.
Oh, okay.
I'm 70 years old. My husband was a United States postal worker, and he put in many years. He used to get up at 3 o'clock, 3:30 in the morning to get to work on time. That's not what I want to say, though, but my husband was a worker for the United States Post Office, and I'm very proud that he did his work.
You should be.
So, now, and I'm proud of you, too.
Thank you, ma'am.
The deal is this. I have to admit that the first election that Obama ran, I voted for him. Because I am a registered Democrat, but that doesn't mean I always vote Democrat.
Right.
However, I realized when he ran again, I wasn't voting for him again. I'm not that stupid.
Well, friend, what changed your mind? Sorry to interrupt, but what changed your mind between all the hopey-changey and the reality kicking you in the face?
It went that he said hope and change. Yeah. Now I feel he's arrogant and pompous. When he talks, I feel like he's talking down to me. I know more in my little pinky.
Right. Me too. We're like the great unwashed, right?
Right. We are. He thinks we are like nothing, that we don't have brains. Well, guess what? We have more brains than he does. I'm not going to be walked into a situation in my life where I'm going to be worse off than I was before. And I'm never going to do that again. Well,
friend, that's a little-known fact that the media won't tell you. That, the president talks about inequality as if he's had no role in creating historic levels of inequality. He's the one that's done this. And then he looks at normal, middle-class, working folks like us. I don't live in a mansion. I live in a regular 2-story home in the suburbs in Maryland and worked hard for it. He looks at me like I'm the problem.
Right.
I've seen it, and he always has this look on. You're right, like, Fran, why did you do this to us, Fran?
Right, like he's got an attitude. I know. I want to just smack him.
Yeah, well, don't do that. We don't want the Secret Service.
No, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to get in trouble. I have enough problems, but this is my idea that I've been doing. The American flag stamp. Every time I mail a letter, I turn it upside down on the envelope.
Yeah, well, we're in a little bit of trouble. Fran, thank you for the call, and a little shout out to thank you. Little shout out to Bayside. That's where I met my wife, Mr. and Mr. Producer. Just so you guys know. So my wife's listening right now. She probably remembers that. I met her over at Bayside, so it has some memories for me. Folks, listen. Well, I'm going to get into this congressional exemption in a minute too, just to show you how this let them eat cake crowd has really taken it to the next level. Not only they exempt themselves, and they did. So give us a call, 877-381-3811. But they did exempt themselves, and they buy themselves the gold plan. Why isn't that sweet? While you get the tin can plan. It is a tin can. All right, folks, stay tuned. I'm Dan Bongino, at DBongino on Twitter. Follow Mark at Mark Levin Show on Twitter. Stay tuned. We got a lot more ahead.
Mark Levin.
Little mellow there. Little Charlie's Angels. Waiting for him to bust through the door. Guns drawn. Stay out. Doors locked. I'm Dan Bongino, folks, filling in for Mark Levin. Trying my best. Big shoes to fill in. Gosh, again, thank you, Mark, for giving me the opportunity. And make sure you buy his book, The Liberty Amendments, folks. It is transformative, to say the least, along with his other books. Meritopia is my personal favorite. So if you're listening, Mark, nice work on that one, too. Again, I'm Dan Bongino, folks. We've been digging into Obamacare, kind of going around about the liberalism topic, too, how this is so-called fairness, making sure our World War II veterans don't have bathrooms at their memorial and that we make sure we put the wired gates up in front of them. That's the new liberal fairness. Maybe we should hashtag that on Twitter. Yeah, liberal fairness. No school choice, Obamacare, which is going to lead to government clinics for the lower income folks and boutique medicine for the rich folks. Yeah, an economy with quantitative easing that makes all the financial field folks very wealthy and makes middle class Americans extremely poor. Gotta love it. What compassion, right? I just wanted to dig in a bit, though, to Obamacare here, folks, because I wanted to explain a little bit of, again, why we fight this fight. You know, think about this. One of the memes you hear constantly, and please give us a call, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. One of these memes you hear constantly, I hear people all the time, and they say it. They say, should be no profit in medicine. All right. Do you work for free? Now, if you're out there in your car, you're listening on the Mark Levin app, or you're in your house listening on your TV or Apple TV or whatever it is, and you work for a living, do you donate all of your salary? So just so I'm clear on this, the doctor is supposed to do that after spending, 15, 20 years in school. So all those hard-working doctors spent their entire lives married to Grey's Anatomy textbooks. You know, they have anatomy coloring books. I took a graduate, I did a graduate degree. It's not Dan patting himself on the back. I'm just telling you. But I took this graduate degree in neuropsychology, and, neuroanatomy is tough. So they have these coloring books. So they're doing these coloring books. That's how difficult it is. You have to color to remember it all. They do this for 15 years of their lives, but they're not allowed to make any money. No profit. Does that make any sense to you? Like, our liberal callers out there, I beg of you, please, tweet us something. Post something. Here you go. Go to my Facebook, shameless pluggery of the umpteenth order, and post why there should be no profit in medicine and what they should do. The doctors work for free. I mean, don't you understand that profit, that evil word profit, is just the incentive for an idea? The idea that you wanted to go to medical school and maybe help people? That it's just an incentive for you to do that? You know, what's evil about that? Was it Adam Smith when he wrote that, the baker, he doesn't produce the bread in a bakery because he wants to feed you. He may want to do that, and that's nice, but he does it because he ultimately has found a way to make money that helps you too, because you need to eat. Well, look at healthcare. Again, this no profit in medicine nonsense. And it is my life's goal from this point on to combat just the pernicious danger of liberalism, folks. It is a disease, I'm telling you. Let me give you a quick story, right? So I have this family member who's a doctor. I won't mention who because he'll be pretty angry if I do. It costs him roughly, let's use round numbers. It costs him about $5,000 to open the door to his office in the morning, right? He's got to pay electric bills. They have these big machines, MRIs, ultrasounds, all that stuff. He's got a staff, middle-class people who work there. He's got people at the front desk, assistants. So it costs him about $5,000. Now, you want a board, an Obamacare board like IPAB, those infamous death panels that they said, oh, no, they don't have anything to do with anything. You want this board to tell him how he should price his services. So let's say they set a price where my family member, he comes in, he can only make $4,000 a day in that evil income thing, profit. Maybe, it wouldn't even be profit. He makes $4,000 a day, but it costs him $5,000 to open the doors, to pay all his bills. What would you like him to do? 877-381-3811. Call us with your solution. You want him to lose $1,000 every day to open the door because you understand what the price for his services are. Not voluntary transactions, not human liberty and freedom, those air quotes here, antiquated ideas that some on the left no longer believe in. You want him to charge $4,900. Maybe lose a couple $100 a day to show up? Explain that to me. Friedman once said, there were 4 ways to spend money. You can spend money on yourself. That's the most efficient, right? Cost and quality matter. You can spend money on other people. In that case, cost matters. It's your money. Quality doesn't matter. You're buying something for someone else, right? Other people, spending other people's money on themselves. Again, quality matters. It's you're buying something for you. You want a hotel room and someone else is paying, right? You want the best one, but cost doesn't matter. Pretty inefficient, right? Well, think about government, right? Other people, government, spending other people's money, yours, on other people. What matters, either cost or quality? Neither. You're buying a product for someone else, so it's not your product, and it's not your money either. And those are the people you want making your healthcare decisions. Was it Thomas Sowell who said that I can think of no worse decision-making process than having people making healthcare decisions for you that have absolutely no skin in the game at all? You die, it's not on them. It's not their hip replacement. That's your idea of compassion? Am I missing something here? I mean, really, am I the only idiot left on planet Earth who sees a functional problem with that system? If you can call and explain to me how that makes sense, I'll hear you out. But I've been trying let me see, I'm 38. When did I start? Really? About 13 or so. It's been a long time I've been trying to figure out how that makes sense. Folks, there's nothing benevolent about a system that's going to create a two-tiered category of medicine. That two-tiered category of medicine is going to be boutique medicine and cash for people who have the money to pay for it, and government clinics for everyone else. Look at what's happening in Britain right now. Folks, it's falling apart, and we are going down that road, and it is absolutely our duty to stop it. I'm Dan Bongino, filling in for Mark Levin. Got a lot more coming up. Give us a call, 877-381-3811. Be sure to stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss this, folks.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
I love that promo. But you actually haven't made contact with your leader. You made contact with Dan Bongino. Oh, Mark, we miss you. I'm Dan Bongino filling in for Mark. Folks, I'll tell you, what an opportunity. Thank you, Mark, so much. I was the 2012 Republican nominee for the United States Senate in Maryland. Again, didn't win that race, but interestingly enough, I just got an email from a friend. Turns out the Senate is back to work. It's breaking news on the Mark Levin Show. Politico's Senate correspondent, Manu Raju, if I'm saying that right, he wrote, with the government shutdown, the Senate has acted. They just passed a resolution designating a week National Chess Week. That's my round of applause for the United States Senate. Thank you, guys, for clearing up the mess. Leadership at its finest. Take that hill, folks. Unbelievable. This is incredible, really. So thank you, friend. You know who you are, for sending me that. Quite interesting. All right, we've been talking about the utter failure of this administration to lead. Blame. And when you can't blame, he's going to start blaming Democrats soon in the Senate because he's running out of Republicans to blame, and that meme's getting old. And I've been talking about how Obamacare is just, it can't work. It doesn't work in theory or practice. I mean, think about it. What is it, 30,000 Canadians a year flee free health care. They flee free health care to pay to travel to other countries to pay for health care they got free. That system must be working great, right? This is the road we're going down. And it was smart because they said, oh, no, we're leaving it all to private insurance and the exchanges. Right, exchanges that are being slapped around by the government and told how to operate. How can it possibly be considered free market competition if the government tells you exactly what to do and you guys can't compete against each other? What kind of competition is that? That's like saying the two baseball teams who are going to compete against each other, nobody can win. We're not going to allow any runs. But, yeah, just pitch it. Let everybody hit. No, don't try to strike them out. Right down the plate. Fastballs. What kind of game? Who wants to watch that game? You got to make them compete. Make these insurance companies compete against each other. All right. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Jose in New York. Jose, you're on with Dan Bongino. Welcome to the show.
Hey, good evening. How are you?
Very good. How are you?
I'm a retired teacher from New York City. And
thanks for doing that.
One of the things that I noticed about Obama is the mere fact that, there's a side of me that I agree with the Obamacare, but then,
Wait, hold on, Jose, because I just want to keep. What do you agree with, just so the audience, what parts do you agree with?
The mere fact that somebody can have health care when they don't have any funds or not working. However...
Okay, hold on one second. Hold on, and I'm going to keep you on the phone, I promise. I'm not trying to interrupt you. I just want to be clear.
Sure.
Obamacare doesn't provide for health care. Obamacare provides for what health insurance. They're not the same thing. Just want to be clear. Everybody, now, I'm not saying it's good, but I'm not saying this is the right way, but everybody in the country technically has health care. You're not allowed to turn anybody away from an emergency room. Now, I'm not saying that's the right way to do it, but it provides health insurance. There's a difference. So go ahead.
Absolutely. And from when I taught my students, you know, the thing that was most frustrating is we will have to pay a fee if we don't select to get into this. You know, that to me is like a dictator. You know, I mean, I'm a Democrat, and I've always been a Democrat. I have a lot of conservative views, and lately I've been seeing the struggles and the mere fact of holding Republicans hostage. And I totally agree. I was hearing your radio station, and something told me to call.
Thank you.
I totally agree how you take somebody's money because they're making more money. The struggle of making your own company and struggling to get out there and getting your own home and your own business, you making these people like hostages to take us out of this how would you say it, the controversy of what we're going through with foreign affairs,
right?
Giving up money. Why are we in the pit? You know, blaming Republicans, blaming Democrats. I'm starting to steer that, you know, we have to get rid of everybody and let the
Jose,
people...
let me tell you, but there's no camera here, so you can't see, but you put a big smile on my face. It's an honor to talk to you, and I'm really glad you called in and that you're starting to see the light on this, because having grown up in New York City, where'd you grow up? You don't have to give me the street, but what neighborhood?
In the Bronx.
All right. You know, me and you probably share a lot more in common than you know. So... the way I came to it is kind of the same way you did that. I'm not making the argument to you or anyone else that in the richest country on earth that we should have people dying in the streets like the Democrats say we do. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is a guy like yourself, let's say, Jose, tomorrow morning you wake up with this incredible idea. And I don't know what you make. I'm not interested in what you make. But you wake up tomorrow morning and you hit this big idea, but you've struggled your whole life. You got calluses on your hands and dirt underneath your fingernails because you've worked your butt off, Jose, your entire life. And you hit it big on this idea. Maybe you've been thinking about it forever. Maybe you haven't. But you put everything into it. And finally, you make some money. You're not rich. Maybe you make $200,000, $300,000. You're doing well. You're not struggling anymore. What is fair about me saying to you, not that you have to pay taxes. Listen, you have to fund our military, our courts, police, fire. I get that. But saying to you that you have to pay a rate that is exponentially higher as a percentage than everyone else because you decided to work hard. What's fair about that?
Absolutely. I agree, and that's where I agree upon it. You know, just because somebody's in a higher rate, like right now, I'm a retired teacher, and I have to go out there and work now, and I can't even get a full-time job because nobody really wants to hire. Obama doesn't want to respect the fact that the Republicans are out there with small businesses. Now, because they consider these small businesses million-dollar businesses, but these are the people that are providing jobs, full-time jobs. So, of course, they're not going to give full-time jobs that they have to pay for this Obamacare medical. So, naturally, you know, you're going to have a lot of people, well, if you want to say Republicans with good businesses, they're not going to provide full-time jobs.
Well, Jose,
so it's going to be a double catch.
Right. The president invented two new terms that I hope they wind up in the dictionary, whether he knows it or not. He invented the 29er and the 49er. And I'm not talking about the football team. The 49ers are the people you're talking about. Obamacare said in its mound of regulations that's like 7 feet tall. We have a congressman in Maryland who's like 6'2", and he stood next to the stack of regulations, was taller than him. In one of those regulations is companies, small businesses, not these rich bourgeoisie the president's always talking about. These small businesses have to provide insurance to companies that have 50 employees or more. Well, a lot of these companies, they weren't not providing insurance because they didn't want to. They were doing it because they just didn't have the money, and they worked out other compensation packages. So, Jose, what did they do? They fired all these people to get under 50 and created an entirely new class of people known as the 49ers. And that's their definition of fair? Hey, sorry, Jose, I got to let you go because you're the 51st employee. By the way, 50's going too. But, hey, Obama said it's okay. It's cool. This is fair. How is that fair to you?
I sent a letter to Obama. I literally wrote a letter to Obama. I told him about the crisis that we were having in the border vet when the thing happened in Connecticut. I gave him my idea, and I specifically said in my letter, why do you continue to have anyone going into the school buildings other than teachers and students?
Right.
Why don't you provide mobile homes away from the schools where you can have administrative, any type of suspensions, so that way nobody enters the school other than teachers and students, so that these students can feel secured.
Jose, they don't want to listen to us. Well, listen, Jose, thanks for the call. Really, it was really good talking to you. Very refreshing, folks. It's, they want you to believe out there that if you're a Republican or a Libertarian or some limited government independent, that we're all the bad guys and that we're the insane ones and the rest of America's crazy. Well, Jose just proved that that's not the case, folks. We're not the enemy. We're just a bunch of Americans who are fed up with this nonsense. And the foie gras crowd in D.C. I still haven't got an answer to foie gras, by the way. At the Bongino on Twitter. Tell me what foie gras is. All right, folks. I'm Dan Bongino, filling in for Mark Levin. At Mark Levin Show on Twitter. Be sure to follow him as well. Stay tuned. We got a lot more ahead. We'll dig more into the myth of liberalism. Stay tuned.
Mark Levin.
All right, welcome back, folks. Dan Bongino filling in for Mark Levin today. Be sure to check out marklevinshow.com and pick up his book, The Liberty Amendments. Give you some guidelines for how to go forward. Take our country back, folks. It's ours. You paid for it. Our ancestors bled for it. A lot of our folks out there now fighting overseas are doing it. It's ours. It's not theirs. Remember that. At the end of the day, we are still the best country on earth. And I tell you, I've traveled a lot during my time in the Secret Service, and there is no second best, folks. I'm sorry. That's not a qualitative judgment on we're all children of God, but I have to tell you, there is no place like this on earth. You do some traveling. I used to come back to Andrews Air Force Base. I remember coming back from Afghanistan. I'm always getting off track here, but I'll tell you this story. So I came back from Afghanistan. I'd done this lead advance for President Obama over there. It's actually my last trip on the president's detail. And we had gotten back early in the morning, and I flew on the spare plane, which is, they have a couple different Air Force Ones. And I remember just sleeping the whole time. I was so exhausted. And man, we hit Andrews. It's called like Joint Base Andrews now, to be technically correct. And when we hit that soil, I got that. I think I kissed the ground. It was cold, too. But there is nothing like this place anywhere on earth. So don't get so down. Matter of fact, when I was taking the train up here today, I put a picture on my Facebook. I took out the window of the train of the Freedom Tower, and I put a little comment down there on my page that we'll fix this. We always have. When all the chips are down, we'll fix it. But it's going to require action and a lot of work. It's not going to happen easily. All right, folks, let's go back to the phones. Let's go back to, Mary, who disagrees with me in Washington, D.C. All right, Mary, have at it. You're on the Mark Levin Show. Welcome.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
That's great. All right, now, I'll tell you why that's not good to liken this to the CEO of a company.
Wait, hold on. Just to reset, you're talking about my claim that the president has abdicated leadership completely, like the CEO of a company or a coach. Why is that inaccurate?
Okay. Did he make that comment, or did you liken it to a company?
No, I said if he was the CEO of a company, he would have failed. I mean, what are you going to do? Blame the last CEO 5 years later?
Now this is why that's very dangerous to do this. Now listen to me, okay? Listen.
No, I'm listening.
Because no, listen to me. I agree with you, okay? I'm on your side.
All
now, the reason why it's not good is because this is not a company. This is a country. This is a world, and it's a whole lot bigger than a company. So what that does is it just, in a sense and in a way, in the minds of the people, it demeans the impact that this man is having on our country and on our world. I consider this, I am one of the people that consider this he is very, very dangerous. And our country's freedom and our rights are at stake. And when you said a little while ago, just a few minutes when you came back from your break, you talked about money and you paid for it. This is way beyond even that. It's not about money. This is about our freedom. This is about our lives. This is about our individuality, because if we have all that, we'll get money.
Well, Mary, just to be clear so you understand what I was talking about, the analogy to a company is not the operations of the United States and the operations of a private company. Of course, the United States doesn't produce anything. We don't, we take money from citizens and we spend it on stuff. We don't produce iPhones or computers or wall tiles, whatever. I get that. The analogy is that a company, a sports team, an office building, whatever, a little league team, leadership is a human trait when you lead a group of people, whether it be a country of people, a company of people, or a team of people. Yeah, and leaders all have very similar traits. Those traits being, I'm going to make this better. This team is going to be better. If you are a good leader, this team is going to be better next week than it was this week. This company is going to be doing better next year than it was this year. The country is doing worse. And my point is that the president has zero characteristics of a natural leader. A leader would actually at this point say, you know what, I'm done, not working out. Maybe I work with the other guys and fix this and try a new path forward. That's not what he's doing. He just consistently gets in front of the microphone, defends his stale policies, none of which are working.
I think Barack Obama is on a vacation on our money, okay, on the American people. And there's
right?
I don't think he knows how to run anything.
Well, he hasn't. And listen, Mary, just to be fair, and I get your point, there are people who are born leaders and people who aren't. There are some people who've never run anything in their lives, and I don't know, maybe they've done some charity work or whatever, and they fall into a company. I don't know how it happened. Who cares? And they just naturally they exude leadership qualities. They take responsibility. They embody confidence in the people behind them. The president has none of that. He engenders this division, and I say all the time, and I use my Facebook and my Twitter. I do it myself. I use it as kind of my blog, and I always use my own feelings there. And I've said over and over, where real leaders develop political capital, they develop like a bank account of good policies and leadership where people fall behind them. Fake leaders develop division capital. And what happens with fake leaders is you never vote for them. You just don't vote for the other guy. You know why we lost that last election, Mary? Not because people voted for Barack Obama. They voted against Mitt Romney because that's all the president could sell you. The whole message was the rich guy is hurting you.
Yeah, and on that note, I'm not so positive that he really did win that election.
Well,
I'm not sold on that. I don't quite believe that. I saw Mitt Romney the day before the election, and I was at a rally in Fairfax, Virginia, and I literally grabbed a hold of his arm and shook him as if to say, you got to do more. You got to say more than this. This is not enough. This is not enough. But
Mary, we got to fight.
I think, I consider myself a prophetess. I really do, because I told people in 2008, I'm going to give you a little.
No, Mary, we're up against a break. So, tell you what, hold on. We'll let you come back. Hold on to your story. I just want to stand by. I'll come back to you. But Mary brings up a good point, folks. The man's leadership qualities are absolutely absent. He's running completely on the idea that the other guy's hurting you and I'm your only solution. Leaders don't do that. Reagan got up and said in clear terms and principles, government right now is the problem. And you know what happened? He won 49 out of 50 states. The only state he lost was Minnesota, which is where Mondale was from in 1984. How are them apples? You like that? That's how you win an election, folks. I'm Dan Bongino. Give us a call, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Stay tuned to The Mark Levin Show.
Don't ask him for middle ground. There is no middle ground. Talk with Mark Levin now at 877-381-3811.
Mark Levin has made the case in numerous New York Times best-selling books, Men in Black, Liberty and Tyranny, and Ameritopia, that the principles undergirding our society and governmental system are unraveling.
This book is what we do, what I do behind this microphone, what we discuss day in and day out. And it answers the question that you ask. Mark, what can we do? Well, this is my answer.
The Liberty Amendments, new from Mark Levin.
When you read this book, The Liberty Amendments, Restoring the American Republic, it gives you hope. It gives you some inspiration, and we need it. And that's why I wrote it.
In the new book, The Liberty Amendments, Mark argues that if we cherish our American heritage, it's time to embrace a constitutional revival.
This book combines our heritage, the framers at the Constitutional Convention, the framers at the state conventions, who are always overlooked, and applies it to our current circumstances.
This year's must-read, The Liberty Amendments by Mark Levin. On sale now at fine bookstores everywhere.
All right, folks, Dan Bongino back filling in for Mark Levin. Be sure to go to marklevinshow.com and pick up a copy of Liberty Amendments. It's very, I read it, very cerebral book, but not written so that for the legalese black robe crowd, folks. It's very readable, and you'll get through it pretty fast. There's some amendments in there. Frankly, when you read through it, you think, why didn't the framers think of this? Term limits for Congress? I mean, he's got a great one in there. So check it out, the Liberty Amendments. Like I said, I got about 4 copies myself, so people keep giving it to me. People love it. So, Mark, if you're listening, I'm getting a lot of great feedback out there in the grassroots, too. People love it. They find some inspiration in it that there is a path forward. The Constitution can fix itself. It wrote itself that way, right? All right, folks, give us a call, 877-381-3811. And just not to get sidetracked again, me, always cutting off the topics somehow. We brought up the foie gras crowd. Say that 10 times fast. How D.C. That's my analogy. This is what they eat for lunch in their little gilded rooms in D.C. while we're all eating peanut butter and tuna fish. I like the natural stuff, by the way. And you don't have to mix the oil in anymore, which is cool. But they're eating the foie gras. And I thought, foie gras, is that liver? Or I didn't know what it was. So I got a lot of tweets, but someone posted on my Facebook page, Dan Perriton. Thanks, Dan. He said, foie gras is duck or goose liver. And then he posted the Wikipedia. Can't read the Wikipedia right now, but there you go. There's our answer about foie gras. So I don't eat it, whatever it is. Well, I have tried sushi a couple of times. Pretty good. Salmon I like. Omega-3 fatty acids, right? We need that. It reduces inflammation or something like that. All right, folks. So we've been digging into the myth of liberalism and liberal compassion and this shutdown. How you heard some of this. You've heard during the breaks, Dick Durbin and Harry Reid out there talking about how compassionate they are and how, conservatives and Republicans, how we just can't stand people in general and how we want to just it's like we want to live on a planet with Martians. We just hate the American people so much, right? Well, you know why they're losing this PR battle this time over this shutdown? You know why? Because information cannot be stopped. And over time, what happened is various cable networks and internet sources found out this crazy thing that 51% of the American people were not getting the information they thought was fair over the mainstream media channels. So you know what we did? The free market. It's a beautiful thing. Embrace it. Grab it in a big bear hug. We got on the internet and social media and cable news, and Mark Levin and all the talk radio hosts went out there and started to tell this crazy thing called the truth. You know why you're losing, Mr. President? Because people have seen the man behind the curtain. They saw what you did down at the World War II Memorial. You proud of that? Let me just grab this article here, right? So here we go. Let me shuffle up my papers here. Here's an article today from the Washington Times. It's called The Cheap Tricks of the Game by Wesley Pruden. And here's a quote from and I quote, an angry Park Service ranger in Washington, who's talking about the cheap way, the closing down of the national parks, some of which, by the way, are run by private companies, those evil private companies that are actually paying money to the government. This angry Park Service ranger says, it's a cheap way to deal with the situation. And this is amazing. Digest this. Get ready. So if you're in your car, turn this one up. We have been told to make life as difficult for people as we can. It's disgusting. Proud of yourself, Harry Reid? When you get up there with your smug little look on, talking to us, all the peons, the great unwashed out there, if you spent your entire life in kind, what are you worth? A couple million? I'm not worth that. Huh? You proud of yourself? I hope you're listening right now. Someone's in the Senate office. Turn it up if you're next to Harry Reid's office. Talk to the great unwashed. Tell us how stupid we all are. As you tell the park ranger who gets up in the morning, and they're not the problem. They get up, they put on their uniform and go to work. And you tell them, make sure you exert maximum pain on the American people. And again, I'm quoting the park ranger here, folks. It's disgusting. That's why you're losing. Because your meme isn't working anymore. We peek behind the curtain, and the wizard's saying, pay no attention to that guy. That's why. Because now we have the ability to get information, and we're going to take it and we're going to run with it. Folks, action matters, right? Use your Twitter, use your Facebook, use your email, use your phone lines, and light up that Capitol and tell them you know exactly what's going on. And I brought up before this, Harry Reid got up, kids with cancer. And he goes, why? And this is Harry Reid's quote when the reporter, who in a moment of unbelievable honesty, says, well, the Republicans put forth a bill to fund the NIH and these cancer trials. Why not just sign it and help this kid out? And his answer is, amazingly, why would we want to do that? Hey, I got my foie gras. I'm good. Why do I want to do that? Help this kid? Come on, I'd lose the political fight. I thought you were there to help the American people. Am I crazy? Am I missing something here? Folks, call these guys out. We are fighting an ideological battle, and Mary had called before and brought up the idea that, folks, these fights right now, I got news for you. I've given some speeches on this, and some people tend to like them. I hope you may like them, too. Some of them are on YouTube. These fights are unique fights because for the first time in a long time, we're not fighting about tax policy, folks. We're not. I know you may be thinking, really? Obama wants to raise taxes. It's not what we're fighting about. We're not fighting even about Obamacare. We're not fighting about coal, the war on coal. You know what we're fighting about for the first time in a very long time? We're fighting about liberty. And I know people go, oh, here we go, another Republican talking about liberty. No, real liberty. I mean it. They're not fighting about tax policy because the tax rate to them doesn't matter. How do you think the president came up with this number, 39.6? He hiked your taxes, by the way, the top tax rate from 35 to 39.6. Yeah, he did that. It's his generosity. You know, he's fair. Why do you think he did that? Because some brilliant economist said, no, 39.6 is the exact number, not 39.55623. Because to him, it's his money. You didn't build that. It's just on loan to you. He will generously give it back to you. The fact that your blood, sweat, and tears earn that money is irrelevant to him. The same thing with Obamacare. It's not about health care. It's about health care control. There's a difference. This is not about health care. Actually, not for the same money. For less money, the president could have spent money and bought every lower-income American the same exact policies the rich among us get, and we would have saved money. You would have been in the very same doctor's offices. Yeah, that's a fact. But that's not what he did. He established all these boards, IPAB, MedPAC. Well, MedPAC was around, PST, the Preventive Services Task Force. What do you think these boards are there for? Wake up. Wake up. Shake the guy next to you gently. Wake up. These boards are not there to give you your liberty and freedom back. Your healthcare liberty is a very real thing. Next time you have to go and pick up the phone to dial the healthcare DMV to get permission to get your hip replaced, you think you're free? You think working 39.6% of the time for someone else's freedom? You think if you own a coal company, it's doing its best to keep the coal miners employed in your area for me in Western Maryland? You think putting that company out of business isn't taking away their liberty and freedom? If they can't put oatmeal on the table, how are you free? What are you going to do, listen to an Obama speech to make you feel better? Wake up, folks. This is a real fight. Remember, it was Bill Clinton who said the era of big government's over. It's his president saying, oh, it's back. You can't have big government and big individuals at the same time, folks. Liberty is a zero-sum game. It's a pie two people can't eat at the same time. You lose it, you will never, ever get it back. No one gives it back freely. It's yours. You were born with it. It's not some gift from the let them eat cake crowd. I don't mean to sound morose, folks, or I'm not trying to get you depressed, but what do you think has made us different? Why do you think we live like we do? This is the greatest time to be alive in the greatest country in the world. Why do you think that is? You think it's a mistake? You think it's a statistical anomaly? It's liberty, folks. Liberty and freedom. Read Mark's book, The Liberty Amendments. You'll get some ideas on how to get it back. All right, folks, I'm Dan Bongino, filling in for Mark today. Give me a follow. Tweet me some questions at DBongino. Tweet Mark at Mark Levin Show. Stay tuned. We got a lot more ahead in this exact same topic, folks. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it.
Mark Levin.
All right, welcome back to the Mark Levin Show. Dan Bongino filling in for Mark. I was the 2012 Republican nominee for the United States Senate in Maryland. Unfortunately, folks, I lost. So, no big deal. It was a good fight. I like fighting the good fights. People ask me all the time, why'd you run in Maryland? It's a blue state. Well, one, because I live in Maryland. It's my home. Secondly, I like the tough fights. I was born in New York. It's the tough fights that build character, right? It's pretty easy to win in a red state. After you win the primary, it's over. Primary is your tough fight. But try winning a primary and then a general. Overwhelmed. Matter of fact, speaking of tough fights, I'm looking at Drudge right now, and de Blasio, who is a New York City mayoral candidate, says he's a fiscal conservative. Have you seen this guy? A fiscal conservative. He's running on the Democratic side. Have you seen this man's history? He's talking about a millionaire tax, which always works well, right? I mean, in Maryland, it only drove every millionaire out of this state. Good job, Bill. Yeah, good luck with that. Joe Lhota is the Republican, I think, right? Go for it, Joe. Go after him on that. He's a fiscal conservative, really? Yeah, that worked out. That worked out well for David Dinkins. Not going to happen. I think you got a shot there, Joe Lhota. We got a couple elections coming up, too. We got Cuccinelli in Virginia, who I know Mark's a big fan of. Good man. I'll be at an event for him coming up in October as well. So he's running against Terry McAuliffe, who... could potentially be the worst candidate the Democrats have ever seen. How, Virginia, if you're listening right now on MAL down there, if you're voting for Terry McAuliffe, just factor in that your wallet's going to get thinner. It's a guarantee. Virginia, you know what? I live in Maryland. They will drive people back into Maryland. So it's actually good for Maryland, terrible for Virginia. So just a warning. You heard it here first, folks. And then we got Lonigan in New Jersey. So have at it with Cory Booker. I mean, it's pretty sad. Cory Booker has his own hashtag, BookerFail. That should tell you something. So good for you there, Steve. Go after it. I always say, cede no ground, folks. It's your home, too. All right, so we've been talking about Obamacare and the failure of leadership by this president. And we got a couple callers here on the phone. Give us a call, folks, 877-381-3811. Next hour, we'll get to some calls, too, 877-381-3811. Now, let's go to George from Long Island, or Long Island, if you're from there. How you doing, George?
Good evening, Dan.
Good evening, my friend.
I got 2 points I'd like to throw at you.
Okay, throw
And I'd like to hear then your view, see about what if you agree or disagree, why. The main point is, or the first point is on regarding Republicans losing a lot of elections. My point is they don't know the game plan of the Democrats, which is obvious. It's based, in my view, on 2 quotes from Vladimir Lenin.
All right.
One is, no amount of political freedom will satisfy the hungry masses. So you got Mitt Romney saying, I'm going to give you freedom and liberty, and Obama saying, I'm going to give you food stamps.
Well, can I challenge you on that? Hold on, because I'll keep you on the phone here, but once we get to 2 and 3 points, everybody forgets what you said at the start. So let me challenge you on that, George. That's not a message problem, okay? We don't have a message problem. That's a messenger problem. And here's what I mean by that. If you are a candidate anywhere in the country running for office right now, listen to what I'm about to tell you, because I ran, and believe me, I lost, and it hurts. That's your name up there, and no running from it. Okay? It's not like IBM when they let go of the CEO. Your name isn't Mr. IBM. When Dan Bongino lost, it was me. I lost. it's not the message. We didn't have enough money to get the message out there. We just didn't at the time. We came out of nowhere. I left the Secret Service. I had 2 donors, right? Me and my dad. But I think Romney's failure, and he's a good man. I met him, actually. I was out to a place he owned when I was a Secret Service agent. He's a good guy, but we have to make it bleed for them, George. And I mean that we have to make it real for them. We have to make liberty real to people who aren't listening. In other words, let me give you a quick example, George. When I was running, I used to sit outside this train station in Prince George's County, Maryland, which is it's the wealthiest minority county in the country. It's always 1 or 2. And I would sit there all the time. People would say, Republican or Democrat? And I'd say, I'm not going to tell you. I'd say, I'm going to ask you 3 simple questions, and then you tell me what I am. And they'd say, all right, have at it. And they're usually in a rush. You got to make it quick. And I'd say, you think you could spend your money better than the government, yes or no? And they'd say, well, yeah. What about your health care? Do you want to make your own health care decisions, or do you think someone on the other end of the phone from the government should make them for you? No, I should make my own health care decisions. I'd say, finally, if your kid's in a tough school, you paid for it with your tax dollars, do you think you should have the choice to pull them out of there or not? George, I kid you not. I don't remember ever getting a no to any one of those questions. When they said yes, and yes, I'd say, good, welcome to the Republican Party. So again, tell me again how selling liberty, you have to make it real. You have to make it tangible. You have to touch it.
How do we go from Reagan to Obama? Rush Limbaugh came on board in the middle of Reagan.
Wait, hold on, George. Good question.
So great. How do we get 25 years of Rush Limbaugh and we got Obama now?
All right, hold on. Time out. Good question. A very fair question. How? Because Obama stole our ideas. Get me the quotes where Obama said in either one of his campaigns, President Obama, I'm sorry, he's the president. So President Obama, give me the quotes where he said, middle class America, I'm going to raise your taxes. Middle class America, I'm going to take away your health care decisions. And middle class America, I don't think kids should have school choice. When did he say that?
The other quote from Vladimir Lenin, a lie repeated often enough becomes the truth. Yeah. Obama's a serial liar. Okay? He keeps saying that you can keep your doctors. It's a serial lie.
George, he has a problem with reality. I agree. I appreciate the call, George. Folks, listen, it is your responsibility as couriers of the mission, as the new Paul Revere's out there, to go sell to people that liberty is very real and the loss of it has very real consequences in very real time for you, not for the other guy. There is no other guy. It's just us. I'm Dan Bongino, filling in for Mark Levin. Folks, give us a call, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Dan Bongino, filling in for Mark Levin. Make sure you visit marklevinshow.com. While you're at it, pick up the Liberty Amendments, folks. Again, great book. I can't say enough about it. I post it on my social media sites as well. Fantastic piece of work there. If you want to learn more about me, I'm at Bongino, Bongino.com. Check us out. See what I'm about. I was the Republican nominee for U.S. Senate in Maryland. Fought a good fight. Unfortunately, didn't prevail. It's a tough state, but cede no ground, folks, for all you New Yorkers, Californians, Marylanders. I get it. I know. I've been there my whole life, but fight the good fight. It's worth it. I promise you. So before I get into my next topic, I want to talk about Chris Van Hollen. I just heard this at the break. His clean seat. Here he goes again. I love the language they use. Here's what they do, by the way. Having been behind the scenes during my time here in the Secret Service. They all sit around a room. They all do it. And give us a call. We can talk about this at 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. But they all sit in a room and they figure out this focus group tested language that's really just designed to consistently mislead you. It's the dirtiest CR ever. But before we get into that, I'm watching on the screen here in the studio the story from yesterday about the woman who apparently had some mental psychopathological problems, some postpartum depression, and the shooting. And there's a lot of questions out there, and we were kind of talking off the air. Mr. Producer here and I, the famous Mr. Producer, for those who listen. There's a lot of Mr. Producers, right? They said, why didn't the cops just shoot out the tires? Well, folks haven't spent 4 years with the NYPD and many years with the Secret Service and haven't walked through that checkpoint, hundreds of times. Listen, I'm a libertarian at heart, always have been. I mean, I even had a bumper sticker on my Ford Escort when I was in college. It said, question authority. I wanted to become a police officer because I felt like I could do things a little different. And, there's always been a streak in me. So I do sympathize. It's a fair question. I get it. I get why a lot of people are saying that. Why, did she deserve to die? Of course not. You're asking all the wrong questions. The answer is obviously no. Folks, but you have to understand, put yourself in these guys' shoes here. They're on the most targeted, hollow piece of ground on earth, politically speaking. The biggest target. I was there, believe me. I'd read the intel reports. Trust me when I tell you, the White House and the Capitol they're not a day goes by that they're not the subject of some new threat. You're there. You've had the Naval Yard shooting go on. We've been the target of numerous attacks. Francisco Duran at the White House, who shot up the front of the White House. The Cessna that crashed into it. Obviously, we had, 9/11. We've had shootings at the Capitol. And you have a vehicle try to breach a checkpoint, isn't following any orders, with tinted windows in a car. You don't know what's going on. And here's what I think the media is not telling you. And I wish they'd get some law enforcement people on to talk about this. Law enforcement personnel are not trained to shoot to kill. That's a myth. You're trained to shoot to stop whatever's happening that's causing you potentially serious physical injury. You're not trained to shoot to kill. That's why they train to shoot at center mass, the center mass of a. You're not trying to kill someone. You're trying to stop someone. There's no equal force thing. In other words, I don't have to wait for you as a police officer to pull a knife to pull out my own knife. If you pull out a knife, I can pull out a gun to stop you. And if you insist on coming at me, I have to stop you from doing that. Now, we can't get it. The morals here are tough. Not everything in life is black and white. There's a whole lot of gray. That's the whole field of ethics. No one is trained to shoot tires, folks. It's impractical. Think about that other video of that poor guy who got caught up by those nutty bikers in New York. It only took him a second to hit the gas and get out of there. And one of the guys wound up paralyzed. I'm not blaming him. I'm really not. But my point is that, think about that. This woman just had to hit the gas and turn the wheel. She could have killed one of these guys. They don't train to shoot out tires. And remember, in those kinds of situations, because I've been in them, I've been in foot pursuits. I remember a situation in the Secret Service in Kingston, Jamaica. And the guys who were with me there know exactly what I'm talking about. We got caught at the end of an alley. We didn't know what was going on. Thank God we had this armored car to get out of there. You're not thinking about your highest level of training. You resort to your lowest level of training because the blood's flowing to your major muscle groups. You're not thinking clearly. That's why you get tunnel vision. That's that term called the fog of war and all of that. You've heard all these terms before. You're trained to shoot to stop. That's why they did that. So I'm not going to get into the morals or the ethics of it, but I think it's only fair, give these guys a shot here. They weren't. No one went into that. No one went to work that morning thinking, how do I shoot someone to kill? That's not what happens, all right? So we're going back to our other topic before. So thanks to all the law enforcement guys out there and all the federal agents serving out there, even though the Senate Democrats won't pay you. So Van Hollen, who I have to deal with all the time in Maryland, it's painful, folks. Yeah, Congressional District 8 in Maryland. Gets up there and says, "Here's House Republicans, you need to pass a clean CR." And if you're listening to this at home, you're probably thinking, yeah, that sounds right. Clean CR, fund the government. He's not telling you that we've already tried to fund vets, the NIH, HHS, national parks. He's not telling you any of that. They're the ones holding it up, of course, on the Senate side. The House Dems, a few of them are seeing the light of day. This clean CR means that they want everything, and you as a conservative or a small government libertarian or someone who even wanted to fix Obamacare, because remember, they dumped defund. The House, whether you agree with it or not, the House Republicans started at defund. Then they compromised, and they went to delay. And then they compromised again. This is a fact. Look it up. Google is the ultimate polygraph test, folks, if you think I'm lying to you and you're a liberal out there. And then they went back to, can we at least delay the individual mandate just like the companies got? And they said no to all of it. So his clean CR, which is filthy dirty, is basically our way or go pound sand, fellas. Forget the 51% of the country or so, or even more, that associates themselves with limited government conservatism. You guys don't matter. Our way or beat it. You know, we have this crazy thing called co-equal branches of government. This isn't a monarchy. The president's not a king. He is 1/3 of our government. Sorry. My apologies that you don't like that. You can feel free to go somewhere else and run somewhere else where they don't have that. But you won't. We have a say in this, too. And so does the 50+% of America that doesn't want Obamacare shoved down their throats. Now, before we go to break, I got a Twitter question on my account. There was I don't know his name, but he, thanks for the question, by the way. He said, I'm a type 1 diabetic. How's Obamacare going to hurt me? Well, it's going to hurt you a lot. Why do you think these costs are exploding under Obamacare? And, folks, there's no doubt about that, okay? None. Costs are the only place they're not exploding are places like New York, where they already had a version of Obamacare that already drove all the good insurers out of New York, okay? How's it going to hurt you? They have this thing called community rating, which basically means if your neighbor has a motorcycle, right, and he goes to buy insurance for his motorcycle, and he rides his motorcycle at 120 miles an hour while intoxicated and on drugs, that he should basically pay the exact same insurance rate as you, who drives your Ford Pinto or whatever it is at 45 miles an hour in the left lane and always signals 100 feet before the turn. How do you expect that insurance company to stay alive? Of course they can't. And then, even worse, it makes the insurance companies not compete against each other by saying they all have to offer the exact same product. Of course they've got to raise rates because they've got to subsidize the guy who wants to ride at 120 miles an hour down the highway. Folks, what law of economics does that obey? Am I missing something? I'm passionate about economics. I love Austrian school economics. But can you explain to me where I'm missing this? I mean, what other service obeys these laws of economics? Why is medicine the only arena where costs are, to use a Democrat's term, the cost curve is out of control? Because the government's involved in 50% of it. When you talk about management consulting, landscaping, legal services, no one's protesting at the Capitol about their costs. It's because people are free to make their own voluntary transactions. The government jams 50% of itself into your life and your medical care, explodes the costs by making these edicts no one can possibly follow. And then they sit there and they duck. The president goes, oh, it's not my fault that the costs are exploding. And then before we go to break, one final note here. How else is it going to hurt you? And thanks for the question. You said you had type 1 diabetes. I'm assuming you use needles for insulin injections. Well, the brilliant Obamaites that designed this thing shoved down your throat a medical device tax on companies that make those needles and wheelchairs. But here's the catch. The device tax is not on their profits. It's on their gross sales. So even if these companies lose money, folks, they still have to pay taxes on it. Can you imagine that? You own a business that sells widgets, you lose money, you got to pay taxes on your losses? Folks, please look it up if you think I'm lying to you, if you think I'm just some, what are they, extremist, or I don't know what else they'll say next. All right, folks. I'm telling you, those needles are going to be prohibitively expensive soon. I'm Dan Bongino filling in for Mark. Stay tuned. We got a lot more ahead, folks.
Mark Levin.
Welcome back, folks. Dan Bongino with a G, not a J. Dan Bongino, like the Italian name, Gino, filling in for Mark Levin. Give Mark a follow at Mark Levin Show on Twitter. I am at DBongino. And please go to marklevinshow.com and pick up his fantastic piece of work, The Liberty Amendments. Again, folks, can't say it enough. It is really, there's a reason they call him the great one. I said it when I opened the show. Not the good one, not the okay one, not the marginally beneficial one. He's called the great one for a reason. It's a really, really deep book, but when you read it and you finish it, we're always people full of hope. President Obama doesn't have a monopoly on hope and change, but you'll know there's a path forward, folks. So, again, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. We've had a great couple hours. It flies by. Just talking to the producers. I can't believe it. Maybe I'm just too chatty. Too much coffee before I got on the air. Well, we were talking about Obama. and this failure to lead, just the utter destruction of the American economy by Obamacare, and how it can't work in theory or in practice, folks. Again, there's a reason Canadians come here for health care and we don't go there. And here's an interesting statistic before I get to the phones. I'll take some calls here. 5%, so 5 out of 100 of NHS, National Health Service, the socialized medicine system in Great Britain over there, 5% of doctors know a patient who has died. Report knowledge. It's a BBC report, so Google it yourself. Know of a patient who has died from healthcare rationing. Not 0.0005%, 5%. 5 out of 100. Staggering. And keep in mind, how they got to this system is exactly the way we're getting there now. Big-time taxes, big-time regulation. Think about it. Why do you have to own the healthcare system if you can just tax and regulate it to death? Just leave it in the hands of private insurers and bankrupt them, and then blame it on them. Ingenious. Kevin Williamson has a book out there, The Idiot's Guide or something to Socialism. I read it a while ago, and he brings his point up like, this is the new socialism. Like, you don't have to own the means of production. Just tax and regulate it to death and let it fail on its own and then blame them. Why own it? Then the government's got to take the fall. It was amazing in the old Soviet Union. They turned the factories over to all the workers. They love that word. And what they do, they took the equipment and went home. And what they have to do, they had to keep the guns at the door to keep everybody inside. You better ask yourself, who's got the guns at the door? Who's got the power, right? Stop this, folks. I'm telling you, this is a dangerous path we're treading down. You will lose your health care liberty, I promise you, and that will have very real consequences. All right, let's go to the phones. Let's see, Michelle in New York City. Michelle, you're on the Mark Levin Show with Dan Bongino.
Yeah, I'm a liberal against Obamacare.
All right.
Yeah, you want to hear why?
Yeah, please.
It's an extortion racket. The American people, that's us, are going to be forced to pay outrageous health insurance premiums to health insurance companies in return for claim denied, procedure not covered, deductible not met, claim denied. It's an extortion racket.
Right.
Talk about death panels. The very definition of a death panel is the blood-sucking health insurance industry.
All
because
right,
every
hold on, time out. Blood sucking. We're getting into like vampire stuff now. Michelle, take it down a notch. Relax. This isn't. We're not gonna get into fisticuffs on the air, unless you want to, of course. But when you say blood sucking, what do you mean? Like, you think people go to work in the health insurance, like they're just normal Americans like you, right? Do you think they go to work every day and say, how do I kill a few people today? I mean, I don't know. What do you mean blood sucking?
Companies.
Government, people in government. Wait. Let me ask you a question. This is a serious question. I'm not playing rhetorical games with you. So just so I'm clear, there are special people in government, though, right? So you want to trade a corporation, a health insurance company, which I agree, we have a lot of problems. Believe me, I've had my own problems with health insurance companies. But you want to make a trade where you're trading a corporation, a health insurance company, full of the very same men and mistake-prone men and women in government and in health insurance industries that you can get away from. You can get away from them and go to another health insurance company in a healthy free market competition environment. You want to trade that for a government that provides health care that you can never, ever get away from? What a deal.
Sir, there's 70 million people in this country that have no health care.
Okay. Why is that?
What?
Why?
Getting away from?
Why do they not have do they not have health care or not have health insurance?
Sir, if you
can call me Dan.
Don't show up at the hospital and get treated.
Why is that?
My friend died.
Michelle, and I feel bad for you, but why did your friend die? Why is the health insurance industry, why is the health care industry in the United States the only service industry where costs are so prohibitive nobody can get it? Why? Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, no kidding. The costs are outrageous.
Why?
But let's talk about the health
insurance industry. Hold on. Time out. I'm throwing the red flag, going under the hood. Michelle, answer the question. Why are health care costs and not dental costs, landscaping costs? Why is it only health care is the only product in the United States that no one can afford?
Have you been to a dentist?
Have I been to a dentist? Occasionally. I floss, so I'm okay.
Yeah, well, they're quite high, too.
Everything's high, Michelle. The world has, but why are healthcare costs so? I agree. One, you make a valid point.
I'll tell you why. Would you like to know?
Wait, Michelle, listen. You got to answer my question. Why healthcare?
Science has outstripped the ability to pay
Who?
Okay?
What?
We can't have...
Science is out. Where is it done that anywhere else? So, Michelle, let me ask you a question. Hold on, because I'm passionate about economics, right? I'm up against a break here, but just quickly. Why don't they have a Corvette showroom in the middle of, like, war-torn Haiti? Why?
Oh, I'll tell you why.
Because no one can afford it. So how does healthcare exist in the United States if no one can afford it?
To hear me, because doctors, they practice medicine so they can get a new Mercedes every year.
Right. I know, Michelle. Do you work for free? Michelle, do you work for free?
I don't care.
Of course you don't care, because you don't have an answer. Thank you, Michelle, for answering none of my questions again. I'm Dan Bongino. Give us a call, 877-381-3811. Filling in for Mark Levin. Stay tuned.
Conservatism with passion. The Mark Levin Show. Call in now. 877-381-3811.
Mark Levin, author of numerous New York Times best-selling books, Men in Black, Liberty and Tyranny, and Ameritopia. Now comes the Liberty Amendments.
This is a book intended to find a course, a way to address all that's going on around us.
The Liberty Amendments, new from Mark Levin.
When you read this book, The Liberty Amendments, Restoring the American Republic, it gives you hope. It gives you some inspiration, and we need it. And that's why I wrote it.
Sean Hannity.
I would describe this as a roadmap for the people in this country, those that say, what can I do? How can we deal with this? It's a roadmap to liberty, a roadmap to return to self-government, a roadmap to reestablish founding principles and restore the constitutional republic we inherited. I highly recommend it.
This year's must-read.
This book combines our heritage, the framers at the Constitutional Convention, the framers at the state conventions, who are always overlooked, and applies it to our current circumstance.
Mark Levin's The Liberty Amendments, now on sale everywhere.
All right, welcome back, folks. Dan Bongino filling in for Mark Levin. Be sure to pick up the Liberty Amendments, and while you're at it, pick up Ameritopia, too. You know, I say that, folks, because I haven't run for office myself down in Maryland. I can tell you this. It's not good enough to be a candidate, and frankly, it's not good enough to be a conservative and be a courier of the message and not understand the deeper philosophical underpinnings. Not to get too wonkish here, but why conservatism and liberty matter. You have to understand. You can't just say to people, here's why pro-growth tax rates work. You have to understand the deeper meaning, and Ameritopia is really, really good at that. And read it slow. If you get into it, read it slow. Don't rush to get through it. It's really deep stuff. You know, Sowell as well. Any work by Thomas Sowell and Friedman. Mark is, I put him in that category. He's got a very deep philosophical mind, and it's not good enough to just say we need to cut taxes. Because then you get the typical nonsense by the left. Cut taxes on the rich? That's not fair. Yet what they don't tell you is progressive taxation is the most regressive taxation of all. Progressive taxation on the so-called rich, they actually pay less. Mark understands why. Do you? I ask you that because, folks, it's very easy to be liberal. It really is. Oh, those rich people. You know, everybody needs health care. Yeah, we have a system that actually gives it to them. All you have is talk. Understanding things like school choice and regulation. It's not good enough. So, yeah, pick up the Liberty Amendments and pick up Ameritopia, too. You'll get those deeper philosophical underpinnings. And, folks, I'll tell you what, it'll change your life, man. Liberty's a very real thing. It's not some talking point. It's not a campaign slogan. It's the real Megillah, man. We are this way. We are the greatest country on earth. People have died for that flag because we are different, because you control your own life here. As long as your liberty doesn't impact on the liberty of others, then they leave you alone. There's nothing they can do to you. And there's something to be said for that. But we just got off the phone with Michelle, got a little angry at the end, started throwing around the blood suckers and all the other typical talking points. I wonder sometimes, what do you think, guys? Do you think they get like the email talking points in the mornings, right? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, half of them say the same exact thing.
Right, they do, right? They get an email in the morning. Fellas, call in talk radio. Use the term law of the land and bloodsuckers, right? That's good stuff. I mean, that's what they do. But, Michelle, did you notice, folks? And, Michelle, thanks for calling in. I do appreciate it. Give us a call, folks, 877-381-3811. Call us and talk to us. But did you notice she didn't answer any of the questions? The minute she got confronted with the very real question, well, why is it that healthcare is the only product and service in the United States that exists but no one can afford? How is that? Think about what I said, right? Think about a third world economy that's struggling, why there's not a Bentley showroom in the middle of it. You may say, oh, that's a dumb question because nobody can afford it. Okay, that's why it's not there. So how does healthcare in the United States exist if no one can afford it? The reason the prices are out of control is because of the government. You have a third-party payer, some bureaucrat who probably wears a bow tie, sitting around this hardwood table, who knows everything about your life, which is a joke, who's telling a doctor how to price his services, putting him out of business so there's less doctors. Folks, it doesn't make any sense. Healthcare doesn't obey the laws of normal economics because of the government. They control 50% of it. Someone said to me once on my last campaign, they said, well, the free market's failed in healthcare. I said, really? We should try it sometime. And isn't it ironic that the Republican model for healthcare reform just gives lower income folks access to the same insurance plans rich people have? Oh, my God. You must hate those people. You're letting them buy the same plans as the rest of America? We want to stick them in government-provided insurance. Well, let me give you a little inconvenient number here. Listen up here and look it up yourself if you think I'm making this up. And people swear this the libs hate this study. University of Virginia study they did on Medicaid. The benevolent program we stick lower income folks in. We jam down their throats instead of giving them choice. Get a load of this little inconvenient fact here. If you're on Medicaid, you are 90% more likely to die after surgery than someone who has private insurance. Think about that. Digest what I just told you. Liberal compassion at its finest. 90% more likely to die after surgery than someone that has private insurance. But here's the kicker. You're about 15% more likely to die if you have Medicaid. This is the real travesty. Than someone who has no insurance at all. Liberal compassion, folks, at its finest. Now, I hope there's a liberal out there going, that can't possibly be true. That study was, they love to pick that study to shreds. They love it. Folks, I've read it 6 different ways from Sunday. It is extremely inconvenient, those facts, for the left. And what's the Republican plan? Hey, we're just going to give you a means-tested benefit based on your income where you can buy the same plans as everyone else. No, we can't do that. Do you really want to be misled? I mean, seriously, folks. Again, wake up. You are being sold. You bought a computer, and you know what got sent to your house? A box, and you looked inside, and there's nothing but styrofoam air popcorn. You're like, wait, here's the box. Where's the computer? Liberalism in the box. It's a liberal computer. There's no computer, man. It's just air popcorn. They're selling you a bunch of crap. I'm not making this up. I have no vested interest in telling you this, folks. I'm not financed by major insurance companies. There's not a bunch of doctors waiting outside Mr. Producer's door here, ready to cut checks here to me. Oh, thanks, Dan, for shilling our cause here. I'm just a guy. I actually walked away. I gave up my health insurance. I was a Secret Service agent, had the FEHB. It's one of the best government health care programs out there. You know why? The government doesn't run it. They give you a book of private insurance companies as part of your salary. It's a benefit, and you just pick one of the plans. I gave it up. Why would I be telling you this? Folks, Mark has millions of listeners. I don't get this opportunity often. I had a road to Damascus moment. If you listen and you really want the truth, it's out there. I promise you. You will never, ever be the same. I really do believe that a higher power gave me this microphone for some reason at some point. Because, folks, that moment changed my entire life. You will never turn back. Ever. I promise you, the truth is out there. It is real. There are people who really care. Granted, not many. There aren't many left in that D.C. Capitol rotunda. There aren't. But there are some good guys out there. And Mike Lee being one of them. You know, left loves to demonize Mike Lee. Let me tell you something. He did more for me when he didn't have to. He did not. When my last run, he had there was no reason at all for him to help me other than he believed in me. Because he saw that I saw the light and I believed in what I was talking about. There's a way to make everybody more prosperous, everybody a bit wealthier, everybody to be able to eat in good restaurants and have good jobs. Everyone. That's not what the left wants. Stop telling yourself that. It's a lie. If this sounds passionate, it's because it is. I may never get the chance to talk to you like this again. Please listen to me. What Mark and all of these other folks on talk radio are telling you is true. They are not in this for you, the left. They are in this for them. That's why they don't want things like a fair tax or a flat tax system. They don't want it because they can't take care of their buddies. It's got nothing to do about raising more money. I'll leave you with this other inconvenient thought. When Reagan got into office, the tax rate was 70%, the highest marginal tax rate under Carter. Again, a fact. Look it up. I'm not lying to you. I got no reason to do that. Government revenue was about $500 billion. I think it was 509. When he got out of office in 1988, he cut that tax rate to 28%. Oh, he cut the tax rate. Gosh, the government must have went broke, right? Folks, tax revenue doubled to $900 billion because people started putting money in their pocket, investing it in their business and paying their workers who spent more money, who paid more taxes, who opened their own businesses. And it cascaded and cascaded. Don't throw the trickle down. There's no such theory as trickle down economics. There's only human being economics. You will always spend your money better than the government. And everybody will have an opportunity. I'm Dan Bongino, folks. At DBongino at Twitter with a G. Give us a follow, give us a question, give Mark a follow at Mark Levin Show on Twitter. And give us a call, 877-381-3811. We'll wrap up after this break. Thanks for tuning in.
Mark Levin.
All right, welcome back, folks. Thanks for joining us for the past 2 hours and 50 minutes. Time flies. I'm Dan Bongino filling in for Mark Levin. Be sure to go to marklevinshow.com, pick up Mark's book, The Liberty Amendments. Great book. Been talking about it a lot. Like it. Highly recommend it. Fantastic book, folks. And thank you, Mark, sincerely for the opportunity to fill in today. It's been a great honor that defies words. I'm not eloquent enough to say how much this meant to me. So thank you so much. So before we wrap up the show, we have a lot of callers who've been waiting. So let's take a call. Let's go to Brian in Nashville. Hey, Brian, you're on the Mark Levin Show with Dan Bongino. What do you got for us?
I've been paying attention to a lot of the talk radio lately. I haven't really been into politics too much, but when I listen to all this talk radio, how Obama gets on the news and says this, that, and other thing, and it's just ridiculous. Boehner needs to be a lot more proactive and explain the facts to the people himself in one way, shape, or form, whether it's the media, however he can do it and get his word out there like Obama is doing.
Yeah, listen, the president has the bully pulpit, Brian. I'm with you. And, I agree. I've been asking the question the whole time. The House Republicans that are getting, what did Margaret Thatcher say? Don't go wobbly now. They're getting wobbly. Well, what do you stand for, man?
Yeah,
right?
Stick up for yourself. You aren't going to sit there and take it from somebody. Stand up for yourself. Explain it to the American people what you're doing, why you're doing it. It's such a misconception that Obama is portraying.
Brian, I can hear the frustration in your voice, and I hear it every day when I'm out there listening to folks. Hey, Brian, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. So thank you very much. And folks, Brian brings up a good point. And to those House Republicans listening right now, I'm not in there, right? I don't know what it's like to be you, but I do know one thing. I know why people voted you in. What do you believe in? Here's your opportunity. Don't believe the nonsense. Stop playing it. We didn't shut anything down. You're the ones that funded the government. Always remember that. People know, get through this fog. Get through it. The people will be with you. I promise. I'm out there every day. They voted you in for a reason. What do you stand for? Are you going to stick up for something? Or are you going to go wobbly right now? So you only like to fight the easy fights? There are a lot of good guys out there fighting really tough fights. Don't leave them out there. Don't leave them out there on their own. The American people deserve better, folks. You're called representatives for a reason. Fight for something. Obamacare is crushing us. Premiums through the roof, access being denied. They had 3 years. They can't even get the system to go up. Have you seen? Here's the most common picture for Obamacare I've seen on Twitter. When people tweet the picture, it's, sorry, can't get on right now, too busy. Folks, if we could not afford health care before because of the government, you think now adding, three times the bureaucracy, we're going to pay for that too, and now we can afford it? Please, folks, this is an important time. Now, I just want to wrap with this. Folks, you have the power, right? This is a representative form of government, a constitutional republic. The greatest force in this country is you. You have to do something. Talk is cheap. It doesn't mean anything. If you're not calling your representatives, calling them, yes, call your representative. If you don't know who he is, that's the first mistake. Find out. It's very easy. If you're not calling, if you're not emailing, if you're not going to town halls and respectfully having your views put out there, then, folks, you're not part of the problem. You're the problem. You deserve to be heard. This is a representative form of government. It can't represent if you don't make your voice heard. There is power in this moment. If it doesn't motivate you to do something, this is all worth nothing. Yesterday's over. Let's stop whining about the election. It's over. We lost, okay? Now let's fix it. But do not let these guys keep their feet to the fire. Stand up for something. Don't believe the hype here, folks. The Senate Democrats and the president have threatened every responsible government funding measure we put out there, and they don't want it. You know it, and I know it. So stand up for something. We need a spine right now. The American people are desperate for one thing more than anything right now. It's leadership. They don't want any more garbage. They've heard all the talking points. They want real leaders to step up. All right, folks. Yeah, it's been a great show. Like I said, I really appreciate it. Again, my name's Dan Bongino. I ran for Senate in Maryland, lost, to be added again in the political process here. So if you want to learn more about me, I'm at Bongino with a G, BONGINO.com. Give us a look. And I, again, want to thank Mark so much for this opportunity. You know, I listen to him a lot in my car, headed home sometimes from the trail there. And I'll turn him up, and I love it when the liberal callers, when they try to go after him. I like it that he has a little line set aside, like liberal callers, call in. Because that's the best radio, in my opinion. But it has been an honor to talk to you. And I really hope, you understand that I'm telling you this because I passionately believe there's a better tomorrow. Reagan won that election in 1984 in a massive landslide. Not because he said what the president's always saying, oh, yesterday's terrible, Bush did it, the tornado did it, the hurricane did it, the ATM did it. Reagan won in a landslide, including winning Maryland and New York and California, because he said tomorrow's going to be better. Not yesterday was terrible. And when we get the right messengers out there, people out there with a positive message that it's not all bad, the Republican Party isn't full of these so-called extremists. I mean, that's just a talking point, folks. They get that in the email every morning. Call Republicans an extremist. And the people who don't pay attention don't believe you. The good people out there, people who really care. And I promise you there's a better tomorrow. We've been through tough times before. This is tough, granted. But we can fix this. Pro-growth tax reform, get rid of Obamacare, start getting some health care choice to some lower-income folks, school choice, cut this regulatory morass, and you will see a level of prosperity you've never seen before in American history. It's right around the corner. All right, folks. Again, I'm Dan Bongino, at DBongino on Twitter. You can follow Mark on Twitter, at Mark Levin Show, and go to marklevinshow.com. And again, be sure to pick up the Liberty Amendments if you really want to see a path forward. It's always a better tomorrow in the United States. And to all my Maryland folks and Virginia folks listening on our stations here, thanks so much. It's been a great honor, folks. Fight the good fight. It's worth it. I promise you. Have a good night, folks. Thanks a lot.